Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another tutorial by your boy JRB. The tutorial that we're going to be working on today is how to make like anime-like explosions. We're going to be going over a couple methods of doing this. One being a very procedural, easy to do method for an explosion. And then another is going to be using like open VDBs and actual explosions and making them look like anime. So let's just jump right into it. All right. We're gonna start with procedural explosions. So first things first, what you're gonna want to do is create an icosphere. Give it a subdivision of about 3. Then let's move on to displacement. We're going to add a displace modifier, set the coordinate system to global, and you're pretty much done from there. The only thing you're gonna want to do is delete the bottom half of your sphere. You don't need to, you could leave it, but we're gonna just delete it for now to make it like a ground explosion. And then from there, all you have to do is animate the scale of the object in whatever direction. You can have multiple of these if you want to. Once you're done with that, all we have to do now is add a shader. For the most part, I just use a Fresnel node with a color ramp set to the colors that I want, sort of an orange to yellow. You can do any colors, make it very special if you want to, texture it any way you want to. There are ways to have it animate, like it to look like it explodes from fire to then turn into smoke. I didn't really do it that well in this. I kind of forgot how I did it originally, I'm not gonna lie, because I don't use these types of explosions anymore. But yeah, let's move on to the Blender version of explosions. Then I'm going to be showing you how we can do this using open VDBs in a much simpler way, easy, fast, quick, all this stuff. So let's move on. All right, for the Blender explosions, we're gonna actually do a explosion simulation using a particle system, quick smoke. You know the deal. I'm not gonna do a full tutorial on how to actually do this type of thing because it's kind of quite complicated, and I'm not that great at doing Blender explosion simulations. So this is sort of the basic way. You set a particle system, have it emit for like a short period of time, edit the domain so it uses the particle system as the explosions, and then from there you're pretty much good. The only difference here is that we have to make it look like an anime. So to do that, we're going to set the catch folder for the simulation somewhere safe because we're going to actually need access to it. Once we bake everything, we're going to delete everything from the scene. We don't need it anymore. We're going to find the location for that catch folder and import an open VDB. This is very important. We're going to import the data set, just follow along here, and then convert the volume into a mesh. This is very important, very simple. All you have to do is, once you import your open VDBs, you add a cube, any object, doesn't matter, and then in that cube you're going to apply a modifier called volume to mesh and use that open VDB data as your data set to use, and then it will turn it into a mesh. From there, all you have to do is shade your mesh using the same setup as before, using a Fresnel node with a color ramp. And what you're going to need to do is use 2 versions of your explosion, 2 versions of the open VDB. So what that means is you're going to have one cube with the volume to mesh set to the word density. Then you're going to make another one set to the word flame. So that way you have one that's only using the flame data and one that's only using the smoke data. So that way you can texture one of them to be more smoke-like, like a black, high roughness type of thing, maybe with subsurface scattering. Who knows what you want to do here. And then the flame set to the same Fresnel type. Now, that's pretty much about it for the Blender side of things. We're going to actually move on to a much simpler method, which does use the same techniques for this Blender one, but taking out 90% of the steps of actually creating the explosion itself, which is way easier. All right, let me have my coffee. All right, let's talk about Embergen. Embergen's not free. This is kind of the one reason why I wanted to talk about the Blender side of things, because as long as you're good at that, you'll be fine. You don't need to worry about this. But Embergen is a great software that creates realistic explosions easily. You can actually render them out in Embergen because it is a real-time software for making explosions, and it has all the sliders that you need to actually make the explosions realistic, and it's very simple to make one. Here you can see I'm just creating an explosion using the settings, and I'm not going to go over how to use EmberGen here. This is just to go over the look on anime, but we're doing all these things in EmberGen. You create the explosion that you want, and then once you're done, you're going to go into this VDB section, drag it out, and then it will say export to VDB. From there, you can then set the amount of frames that you want, and the only things you have to check are absolute flame, and then you also have to check off export flame, all these data like temperature, fuel, flames, and smoke, or density. I think it's like 4 selections. From there, you just need to select an output area and then export your data. From there, you can then go into Blender and import your open VDBs the same way we did it with the cache folder for the Blender section. This is very important just in general for VDB stuff. So once you import it, you'll have your explosion. It most likely won't be in the center of your screen, so you're gonna have to find it somewhere in the scene. Just play your animation and find it, then drag it to the middle. From there, you're going to add a cube, volume to mesh, select your open VDB, same as before, and then you got yourself a VDB. And most likely this explosion is a lot better looking than my Blender version, so I always prefer using this. It's just easier and simpler to set up. From there, you're going to do the same exact thing as the Blender one and create two versions of the explosions, one using the density and one using the flames attribute. So from there, texture it the same exact way as before, and the only thing you have to adjust here is maybe the threshold amount on the volume to mesh, so that way towards the end the flames actually go away, as well as the smoke, because sometimes the smoke will still be there even if it technically doesn't exist on the open VDB. For some reason it does that, I don't know why, but you just usually have to adjust your threshold rate in order for it to go away. I'm struggling right now to speak, that is fine. Anyways, that's pretty much the tutorial. I try to make this one quick for you guys because it's mainly a shading tutorial slash volume to mesh sort of thing to create a very anime look, but with realistic explosions. The procedural one is definitely the easiest way to go if you need something really cartoony and you have a little bit more control over it. You also could do things where you edit using like shape keys and editing the mesh so that it spreads off in like certain directions. You could do something like that. It's all up to you. That's usually what I do. I didn't showcase it here. I wanted to make it more simple. But yeah, I like the realistic explosion method because it uses real physics of explosions. So I was able to create things like this room explosion here, and it was just more simpler. But then you have things like this, which is my procedural version of the explosion, that can also be utilized, and it's helpful because it's a little bit more like easier to time and work with in a lot of senses. But you can do all these things, and it looks sort of cartoony, but it also keeps a bit of realism here. And the nice thing is you can change the explosion to look like anything, any color, any shader. Just considering the right shaders, you have a good thing. That was it for this tutorial. I hope you all enjoyed. I had fun making this one. I spent a little bit more time than my last one, so hopefully that'll be good. I'm probably gonna keep recording with my phone because, to be quite honest with y'all, it's a little bit easier to just set up my phone, record it, the audio's fine. It's an iPhone 13, like it should be fine. And I can just put everything in, edit it quicker, so that way I can get these out a little bit faster and on time. I plan on saving the whole setting up the camera and audio stuff for when I shoot things like the AI video and all that stuff, but don't worry about it. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Little hint on the next edit that I'm going to be working on for potentially next month. I'm giving myself some time on this one, but it is a Chainsaw Man edit. I'm going to be recreating the trailer for it. And then some. I'm going to be alluding to some things that are happening in season 1 that won't spoil like too much or anything really. And also there's going to be like a whole massive fight that we didn't get to see fully in the trailer, where Chainsaw Man was cutting up a bunch of zombies. So I'm going to be extending that fight, but also making a trailer. So it'll be fun. We'll be rendering in cycles. It's new, it's different. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, all that stuff. I'm gonna go. Peace.